Hey gang, and welcome back. These videos are brought to you by Card Conduit, the best place to sell your unused collection fast and easily. 401 Games, Canada's top shop for all your hobby and TCG needs. Dragon Shield, the strongest sleeves for your strongest decks. Moxfield, the easiest way to store and share your deck lists. And Foil Armor, flatten your foils fast. And today's game has us playing only spaceships, with Mathieu winning the die roll and starting us off. He draws and plays a deserted beach. Arja displays a plains. I play a fabled passage, sacrificing it and going to find a land. Max draws and plays a tap Savai Triome. Mathieu is drawing for turn and playing a mountain and passes. Arja's got a plains and decides to become enemy number 1 of the table by casting Kataki. I disdraw, play a mountain, and cast Nature's Lore to go search for a land. Max's turn has him playing a Razorverge Thicket, which comes in untapped, and he pays 2 for a Skull Prophet. Mathieu plays a Sunbaked Canyon, and then casts Inspirit, and passes once it resolves. Arja's got a plains, and is then able to cast a Seriema. As it comes in, he gets to tutor for a legendary creature, getting Philia with it and putting it to hand. I draw and cast a Sabo Tender before playing a Swamp. This has each opponent taking 1, and I then still have enough mana for a Scavenging Ooze, and I pass after that. Max plays out a Luxury Suite, and then casts General Ferrous. He then sends the Skull Prophet at Arja. Arja takes the 3, and Max passes. Mathieu's upkeep has him paying 1 to Kataki's trigger because of his commander, and he draws for turn. He then plays Drill Too Deep and puts 5 charge counters on Inspirit and passes. Arja pays 1 for the Kataki trigger and draws. He plays a plains and then hits Matt with Kataki before passing. My main phase has me casting a Sprouting Goblin, paying the kicker, and I go and find a mountain. I then play Blast Zone as my land for turn. This has my opponents taking 2 with the Sabo Tender, and I follow up with an Exploration Broodship. I then station it by tapping the Sabo Tender and the Sprouting Goblin, and I pass turn. Max plays a Copperline Gorge, and then sends Ferrous at Mathieu and the Skull Tender at Arja. They both take their hits for 3. Max then casts Selvala Explorer Returned, and gets a Golem token from Ferrous' trigger. After that, he passes. Mathieu continues to pay for Kataki's trigger on his upkeep, and draws. Without a land drop though, he has to move through his phases, discarding down to 7. During the end step as well, Arja cycles a Secluded Step, drawing a card. He also flashes out Philia. Arja pays for his Kataki trigger for his commander, and draws. He then goes to combat, and sends Philia and Kataki at Mathieu, using the Philia Flicker trigger on the Seriema. Mathieu then takes the damage, and as Arja goes to his end step, his commander returns, which allows him to tutor for another legendary creature. This time around he gets Linvala, and puts it to hand, and passes. I pay for my Kataki trigger, and draw, and then play Hearthhull. I then station it for 4, and then activate it to sacrifice my mountain, and draw 2. I then play a Cabaret Courtyard, and I sacrifice it and gain 1 as well. I also deal another 1 to my opponents with a Sabo Tender. Max pays for his artifacts on his upkeep and draws. He plays a Swamp and then activates Selvala, getting 3 green and 3 life off of it, and uses it to play Glare of Subdual. Going to combat, Max sends a Golem token at me and the rest of his creatures at Arja. Neither of us block, and Max passes. Mathieu pays for the Kataki trigger, which is brutal considering he has no lands, draws, and still doesn't have a play. He has to pass. During the end step, Arja channels Touch the Spirit Realm on the Seriema. He blinks it, and as it comes back, goes to find Brimaz. Arja pays the 1 for Kataki, and before moving to the main phase, Max taps Philia by tapping a Golem thanks to the Glare of Subdual. Arja then draws, and plays a plains, and casts Brimaz. He then plays Fragmentize, and targets Glare of Subdual. Mathieu wants to slow the game down though, so he casts a Metallic Rebuke to counter the Fragmentize. Going to combat, Arja then hits Mechia for 2 with Kataki and passes. My main phase has me casting a Knight's Whisper, losing 2 and drawing 2. I then activate Hearthhull, and I sacrifice a land to draw 2 more. I then play Sulphurous Springs and Cinder Glade. This has the Sabo Tender dealing 2 to my opponents. I then finalize crewing up the Hearthhull to its final stage. And also remember to pay the Kataki trigger here. I then continue my turn by casting an Arcane Signet, and I pass. Max pays for Kataki, draws, and activates Savala again. He only gets 1 non-land card off of this, and he does nothing with the mana and goes straight to combat. Max sends the Skull Prophet at me, and 2 golems go at Arja. We both take the hits, and Max passes. Mechia continues to pay the 1, draws, and finally has land with a Storm-Carved Coast. He then casts Kilo, and uses it to station Inspirit, and since it gets tapped, gets to proliferate a counter onto it, and also my Blast Zone, so I can try and take out Kataki. After that, Mechia passes. Arja pays for Kataki's triggers, and then gets Philia tapped again by the Glare of Subdual before drawing for turn. He plays a Plains, and then casts Geist Honored Monk, making some spirits as it comes in. He then goes to combat and sends Brimaz at Max and makes a cat token, with Max taking 4. After combat, Arja then stations the Seriema to be online, and this will protect his tapped legendary creatures. He then passes, and during the end step, I use the Sprouting Goblin and sacrifice a land to draw a card and deal 2 to my opponents thanks to the Hearthhull. I pay 2 to keep my ships alive, but I sacrifice the Arcane Signet and draw. I then play the Gitrog Monster, followed by Bojuka Bog, exiling Mechia's graveyard. I also play an untapped Stomping Ground and take 2. I then sacrifice the Bojuka Bog to Hearthhull, drawing 2, and my opponents each take 2 as the land is sacrificed. I then station the Exploration Broodship to 10 and pass. Max activates Savala again on his upkeep in response to the Kataki's triggers, getting 4 mana off of it to pay for his golems. He then uses the remaining mana to help cast Assassin's Trophy and targets the Gitrog Monster. It gets taken out, and I get a land, which triggers Landfall, dealing 1 to my opponents. He then draws for turn and plays a Misty Rainforest. He sacrifices it, getting an island, and then plays Infinite. This has him getting 9 robot tokens as it enters, and he then stations Infinity to 6 as he passes. Max pays for his 2 artifacts and draws. He plays an island and then casts an Everflowing Chalice for 0. He goes to combat and puts 2 counters onto it thanks to the Inspirit trigger. After combat, Mechia plays a Titan Forge, and then stations Inspirit with Kilo again, which as it gets tapped, gets to proliferate his counters as well. After that, Mechia passes. Arja pays for the Seriema and draws. He plays a tap Myriad Landscape, and then casts Daxos, Blessed by the Sun. He goes to combat, and sends the Monk and 2 Spirit tokens at me. And moving to blocks, I chump the Monk with my Exploration Broodship. In his post-combat main phase, Arja plays out a Flicker Wisp and targets the Geist Honored Monk. And he then stations the Seriema with his legendary creatures, and since they're tapped, they're now protected. I pay for my commander, and draw for turn, and then cast Escape to the Wilds. I then once more activate Hearthhull, sacrificing a land, and then play out 3 lands from exile. I then crack the Bloodstained Mire, going to find a Vernal Fen. I follow up by casting Retreat to Hagra, and crack the Arid Mesa for a Smoldering Marsh, draining my opponent's turn 1 with Retreat to Hagra, and dealing 1 to each of them as well, thanks to the Sabo Tender. During my end step, Max taps my 3 creatures and Inspirit thanks to the Glare of Subdual. With the trigger targeting the Sprouting Goblin, I sacrifice a land, drawing a card, and deal 2 to my opponents thanks to the Hearthhull. Max activates Savala in response to the Kataki trigger, and taps all of Arja's creatures before sacrificing his robots, but pays to keep around his golems. He then stations Infinity with his Skull Prophet and Ferris, and goes to combat. He sends everything at me. I can't block and take 23, and Max draws 9 off of Infinity's trigger. After combat, he then plays a Verdant Catacombs. He then casts a Soul Ring, and follows up with Toxic Deluge for 7. Everything but Infinity dies, with Arja gaining 11 life from Daxos. Max then passes, and during the end step, Mechia cracks the Sunbaked Canyon, drawing a card. Mechia's got a Sulphur Falls in his main phase, and then recasts Inspirit. He then plays out a Core Tapper, and uses it to station the Inspirit, and goes to combat. This has the Inspirit triggering and putting 2 charge counters onto the Titan Forge. After that, he passes to Arja. Arja draws and plays a Plains, and casts Elspeth, Sun's Champion. He then downticks her to destroy the Infinity, and follows up by playing an Endless Atlas before shipping it to me. I draw, and it's so nice to not have to tap on my upkeep, and play a Horizon Explorer. And then play a Scalding Tarn, which takes up Mechia with Retreat to Hagra's trigger. I then crack the Tarn, going to find a Sheltered Thicket. I then cast Worldseed's Rage for 5, and deal the damage to Arja. This'll get me 5 lands back, and trigger the Retreat to Hagra 5 times, but responding to it, Max sacrifices a Verdant Catacombs, going to find a Godless Shrine, and takes 2 so it comes in untapped. He then casts Swords to Plowshares on the Explorer. I get my lands back, and the landfall triggers, but the lands come back tapped this time. The Cabaretti Courtyard also sacrifices itself, gaining me 1 life, and goes to find me a forest, and pings everyone for another 1. After that, I pass. Max's main phase has a Traxa Grand Unifier coming in, and he resolves her trigger. He then plays a Steam Vents. Max then plays a Blade of Selves, and passes after it resolves. Arja draws and plays Soul Ring, and then casts Sword of Hearth and Home. He then upticks Elspeth to make 3 soldier tokens, before casting Stroke of Midnight and targeting Retreat to Hagra. I draw and play Tanuk, and then cast a Mayhem Devil. Arja draws off the Endless Atlas in response to the Devil, but with my landfall triggers and knowing the Mayhem Devil triggers are going to go off on my fetch lands, I'm able to take out both Max and Arja and win the game. Game review time. So, MVP for this game was probably Hearthhull. It's a draw engine, it's a sacrifice outlet, and it's a punisher for sacrificing. It's everything you want in a commander in the command zone. Yes, you have to charge it up to make it active, but that did not seem to be very hard to do. Otherwise, I thought the Seriema was fantastic. Arja was able to get a bunch of tutors out of it, and Max playing Infinite, the Guideline Station, just showed that really playing 5-colored, multicolored spells is just gonna get you a lot of robots, draw you a lot of cards, and do a lot of cool stuff. Unfortunately, I think Mathieu would have wished for his deck to play a little bit better. He really didn't get going until very late in the game, and even then it was quite far behind. But I could see how the charge counters and proliferating would quickly power out some things if he had some better mana rocks out. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, but it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.